Today we're in the studio with Betsy Zeidman. She's a senior fellow here at the Milken Institute. Welcome.
Hi, Jennifer.
So we have a new report coming out on state municipal finances, which is an enormous and critical issue right now. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the report, but first tell us how we got involved with it.
Well, we have worked for a long time with the Kauffman Foundation, and we have a number of shared interests in the importance of entrepreneurship in this country and the role of finance in fostering economic growth. And it was very clear to both organizations that states and cities were under a lot of financial pressure. And if you don't have a strong economy, you're not going to be able to create entrepreneurs and finance entrepreneurs and create jobs. We brought together people from the labor unions, we brought together people from city government, we brought together people from state government. We had people who had been researching this and who could give us the data. We had foundations who were interested in the quality of life in the cities and the quality of life for workers and for entrepreneurs. We had somebody from one of the rating agencies. So we had a number of different parties there.
Give me a little bit of a bite on what the exact problem is and how much of what we call a gap exists.
Well, the gap we know about is largely, we know about the gap on the pension side. And that's where most of the attention has been. Every state, every city has pension plans for their workers. Many of these plans are underfunded. And then what that means is that they don't have enough money set aside, or they project they're not going to be able to have the money to pay the benefits when those benefits come due. We've got a baby boom that's reaching retirement. So we're going to hit a place where you've got many more people retiring than you have people working. And so there's this huge gap, and the number that we've seen is anywhere up to $3 trillion in terms of the gap.
What did they find to be things that we could look at to start solving the problem?
Well, we looked at a range of things, and we looked at things specifically related to the pension plans, and then we looked broader in terms of the operations of the cities and things that they could do to increase revenues and to decrease costs. Because at the end of the day, that's really all they can do. Raise more money, spend less money. On the pension side, we looked at a number of things that frankly have been in the media a lot. And we're restructuring some of the pension plans so that they're not getting as much directly from the government. They're having to put more in themselves.
That's more of a defined contribution plan.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. The challenge on the pension side is that you can't renegotiate contracts that are fixed. So you're only talking about the new workers that come in. So that's been a lot of, can we really change it with that? On the management of the city side, we looked at things like operating more efficiently. There's 3,100 pension plans in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
There's 2,500 separate government units. So could you merge some of these? Could you be more efficient? We looked at things on the revenue side, such on the tax side, which is, should we broaden the tax base? We're a service economy. We don't tax services. Maybe we should look into taxing services.
What's another player that can possibly share this burden of what is a very large problem?
Well, one of the real issues is, should the bondholders have to share the burden? I mean, much of the funding for cities and revenue for cities comes from municipal bonds. And basically, the first thing cities do is pay their bonds, which is a good thing. Otherwise, we would not have a healthy investment market for bonds. This problem cannot get solved unless everyone takes a hit. And that was one of the conclusions that really came out of this. We called it burden sharing. Frequently people talk about, and we read in the paper about bankruptcy. All these cities are going to go bankrupt, the states are going to go bankrupt. If you go bankrupt, you can renegotiate all your contracts, so that's seen as a way out. In fact, it's not a viable way out. First of all, states cannot go bankrupt. They have to have a balanced budget every year. Well, every state except Vermont has to have a balanced budget, but states cannot go bankrupt. And in about half the states in this country, cities can't really go bankrupt unless they get permission from the state. And if they do, there's all kinds of contingencies on, what they have to do before they reach bankruptcy, what the conditions are that they can do it under. Nobody really wants to go bankrupt, because if you want to be able to go back to the capital markets and borrow again, and it's going to be really hard to borrow if you've gone bankrupt.
And I believe that a large portion of this special revenue bonds doesn't even play into that
Yeah,
mix.
I think it's something like 2/3 of it are special revenue bonds, which are bonds that are attached to a source of revenue. So a highway bond that might be paid by tolls, things like that. Those can't even be touched in a bankruptcy. So we talked about, if bankruptcy is not an option, what are other options? And we really got to the place of discussing, how do you share the burden? How do you come up with solutions? You get everybody to get at the table and to say, we can't keep pushing this off into the future. So everybody pretty much agreed. We have to acknowledge that it's there. We have to acknowledge that it's a problem. And we have to stop demonizing one party or another. and get everybody at the table and get the unions to be willing to say, we will take some cuts. We will change the structure of our plans. We will have our employees put more money in. To get the bondholders to the table, which is not an easy thing to do because most municipal bonds are held by individuals or mutual funds, something like 70%. Wow. But to be able to try to address the issue and to say, maybe we extend the terms of these bonds, maybe we change the way we do the interest rate. It's not easy, but it's doable.
Well, I know that there's a lot, all of the ideas are laid out in the report, which is available on our website. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.